Howdy, Corbin. This is your video practice guide for this week. I hope the waterfall in your nose ceases this week. That'll make practicing miserable if you're dealing with that. So, as per usual, 3 objectives. The first objective is doing that same picking pattern that we learned with the chords that we learned, but with the unforgiving metronome. So, the first exercise, the first part of objective 1, is with your metronome set at 93. Practice the patterns separately. So, for example, here's pattern 1 at 93 BPM. Just looping it. And then pattern 2 with C add 9. And then pattern 3 with D. Understood? And the hardest part of metronomes is to listen to the click that's actually happening in your ear from the machine and not to get so worried about tapping your foot or bobbing your head that you're creating your own metronome. So just relax, let the beat of the metronome carry you. And a great way to get out of your head and to listen to the metronome is to put down the guitar and to do what we did today and sing the part. Do da dee da do da do da dee. Doesn't have to sound good, don't have to sing well. Just be able to sing with that rhythm. And then also tapping it on your guitar. And that will put you right back into the mode of things. So then, once you've mastered those 3 patterns at 93, try them at 108. That's 107. There we go. Okay. That's pattern 1. Pattern 2. Now pattern 3. And so this week, if you can do those patterns separately with the metronome at those 2 speeds, you will be golden. If you get that down and you feel like forging ahead, try putting all 3 patterns together and playing it the way the song plays it. So that's objective number 1. And that's going to be hard, but I think it'll be good. Objective number 2 is easier, a little more straightforward. And that's just making sure, since now we're going to move on into the part of the song where we're strumming chords, that we're holding down all the notes necessary. Because when you're doing the picking pattern, you can get away, especially with only pressing down 2 notes of G. But when we're strumming, we need to press them all down, which means we have to be okay with buzzing strings and muted notes that sound weird and forge right into getting better at those. So, for G, make sure you're playing the whole thing, which means you also have your pinky in there, right next to your ring finger, the chord that you already know. Get used to playing that. And that's something you've already learned and is not too much to do with G. But with C add 9, you want to make sure that you're including your index finger there and muting the low E string. So for C add 9, the way you do that is your middle finger, which is already on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, you just make sure that the edge of it is just touching. We'll try to get this as close to the camera as possible. Make sure that the edge, like right now, it's not muting. Now it is. It's just barely touching that 6th string. I'm not pressing it down. I'm just touching it. So, be able to play C add 9 where you strum all of the strings, but that low E is muted by your middle finger. And then D, this is the hardest one, and since the neck on your guitar is so wide because it's a classical guitar, if this is physically impossible for you, don't do it. we'll figure out another way. But with D, holding it as it is, you take your thumb, and that just sneaks up over the side and just touches the edge of that string to mute it. But your guitar is super wide, so if your thumb can't reach all the way around, don't hurt yourself. Don't sweat it. It's not your fault. It's just the guitar is too big. So that is objective number 2, being able to play all 3 of the chords with all the correct fingers with the low E muted on C add 9 in D. The third and final objective is, you know the strumming pattern we learned? The down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Do that on each of the chords, now that you know them the full way. And don't worry about going fast or worrying about a metronome. I just want to know that you can match the pattern to the chords played correctly. So be able to go... And then to also, in C add 9, with the right string muted. And then to D, the low string muted again, if possible. So once you've done that, try melding it together. And if you can master those 3 objectives, you will be so golden. But if you practice these 3 objectives and they're not perfect, that is totally fine. That's literally what lessons are for. And I'm throwing a lot at you this week, but you've shown that you are apt in your practicing. So I'm throwing more at you. So see you next week.